Over to you, Alan.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Alan Rouse. I'm one of the trustees with the BBKA, and I'd just like to introduce Liz Westcott. She's going to be doing the presentation this evening. Liz is very well known in Devon. She's an award-winning wax, honey, all sorts, everything you can think of with regard to products from beekeeping. She's won many competitions and is well regarded in Devon. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you, Alan. I'm going to speak to you this evening about how I process wax for the show table. I'm acutely aware of the fact that when beekeepers talk about what they do, there's at least half a dozen different ways of doing things, and whatever works for you is fine. But I'm just demonstrating this evening what works best for me. I strongly believe that to get good wax, it starts right from the very beginning when we take our honey off the hive. And so I'd like to take the process right from there. When I take my honey off, and this is just a point of interest, I don't suppose it makes a lot of difference to your wax. At Spring Conference several years ago, I bought these white plastic lids, and I find that they are perfect for when I'm taking my honey. I put a lid on the base like this, put my on top, and then another lid on top, so that when I'm taking my super off away from the apiary, it's completely enclosed, and then I don't have being followed by bees, because as far as I can, I've kept my honey contained, so the bees can't get in it. Also, those lids are really good when you put your honey in the vehicle. You put one on the bottom, and then as you pile your supers up, cover each one with a lid, so that it keeps everything bee free. Also, I'm sure I don't have to remind you that honeybee foodstuff, you should never put your supers on the floor when you are in your apiary, because I know certainly in my apiary, I've got badgers walking through there and foxes. And interestingly enough, the badgers have never interfered with my hives. And in fact, one summer when I had a wasp nest in my apiary, the badgers came along, dug it out and got rid of it for me. So I'm very happy with badgers in my apiary. So then I obviously bring my supers home, and then when I uncap, I'll show you what I do. I have a bucket. It's a 5-gallon American bucket that I got from let me see, from Man Lake, when they were Man Lake. The Equipment UK. But what I like most of all about these buckets is that you can buy a comb uncapper like this that sits onto the bucket like this. And before I start, I line my bucket with net, so that when I'm uncapping, the frame sits in the uncapper like this, and then as you take the cappings off, they fall into the net bag. And then when you're finished, you can just tie a string around the neck of that bag and hang it up over the bucket and let it drip. And I find that I'll get probably another £10 of honey out of my cappings. So it's well worth doing. It's very good honey. I don't tend to sell my honey that I get from the cappings. I use it for either making mead or cooking. but it's perfectly good honey and shouldn't be wasted. So when I've left that honey to drip, I then have my cappings in my net bag. And what I need to do then is to clean those cappings. So because the cappings are encased in a net bag, it makes it much easier to clean them, because then you can just dunk the bag in water and get any excess honey out of there. I tend to use water that is from my filter tap on the sink, because I have a particularly good one. You can use spring water that you buy, bottled spring water. It's best not to use chlorinated water straight from the tap. You could use water that has been caught from rainwater, but not if it has come off of a concrete roof, because the concrete roof brings chemicals with it that's not good for your wax. So soak your cappings in water and get the sugar out of them. You find that if you don't soak them, or if you don't wash them, and you get little granules of sugar, when you are processing your wax, and as it solidifies, it makes little bubbles around the granules of sugar, and you end up with all these tiny beads of wax that you can't really do very much with. So that's why you wash it. If you've washed it in nice spring water, then if you want to, you can filter that water and use it for your mead as well. So then the next thing is, I've got my wax cappings, and I need now to start processing them. So what I do is, I have a small bucket. This is probably a 3 kilogram bucket. Or, I mean, depending obviously how many cappings you've got, you can use a big 30-pound bucket if you've got a lot of cappings. Put them with spring water or filtered water. I have got a warming cabinet that I can set at a specific temperature. So I'll put my cappings in my warming cabinet. You can also put them in your oven at about 70 degrees. But when I used to do that, I used to set my temperature at 70 degrees on the oven, but I also put in a meat thermometer that has got an alarm on it, because I find that my oven would sort of fluctuate in temperature, and if it starts to get too hot, then it's going to spoil your wax. And if you put a meat thermometer in, then you can set that alarm at, say, 75 or 80 degrees. And once it starts to get too hot, then you can come and do something about it. What you want now is for your wax to melt. And I find that if you put it in a bucket, whether it's a small one or a large one, and you put it in with water, then a lot of the impurities in the wax sink to the bottom in the water, so you don't get that very thick layer of dark gunk on the bottom when it solidifies. Also, when you come to release it, if the bottom is water, you haven't got that surface area that is stuck to the bucket, and it's much easier to get it out. And if you've got a plastic bucket, you can just squeeze the sides and ease it, and it comes out much easier. With wax, when it's in a mold, if you find that you've cooled it to room temperature, and it's difficult to get out of the mold, put it in the fridge for 40 minutes, and the wax will shrink, and then it should come out. If it doesn't, put it in the freezer for half an hour, and you'll find that it always comes out once it's been in the freezer for half an hour. So the thing is, now we have got our lump of wax, and Probably, I mean, it probably doesn't look like this. It'll probably be a round piece of wax if it's come out of a bucket. But I mean, I've got a piece of wax like this. So that's your first cleaning, that you have simply got your wax cappings, you've washed them and you've put them to solidify, and there you have a lump of wax. But you will probably find that that wax is not yet perfectly clean. So the next thing to do is to reheat that wax. If there is a thick layer of guck on the bottom, get a sharp knife and cut what you can off. But it is quite difficult to cut the wax when it's in a cake, because it's quite solid. So now what I will do is put it back in my warming cabinet and heat it again. And very often I will break it down into smaller pieces and put it into a Pyrex jug. The thing is, with Pyrex, you can heat that for as long as you like and keep it warm, and it's no problem. Sometimes if you use plastic jugs and you warm, they tend to be fairly okay. But if you have one that the plastic is quite thin, if you keep warming it, it gets brittle and cracks. So the next thing for filtering my wax, I take a metal coat hanger and make it into a circle like this. I get an old pair of tights, or a new pair of tights for that matter, and cover the circle with a pair of tights. I find that if you go to the pound shop, you can get a pack of 5 tights for, I don't know, very cheap, £1.50, something like that. And I would advise you to buy the biggest size tights that you can, like extra, extra, extra large, so that you get more tights for your money. And then just slide it over the circle of metal that you've made, so it will look like that. And the first time that I filter my wax, I will do it straight through the nylons or the tights without any filter on there. Then you don't necessarily need that to solidify each time you filter. You can put it into a warm place and do it again. So the next time I filter, I will put face wipes. I mean, you can use lint, and lint is probably the best thing to use, and you use it with the fluffy side up. But I find that if you go to the pound shop, you can buy a pack of face wipes or baby wipes, rinse them in filter tap water, and then lay them on your piece of tights here, and then filter it again. And I do that several times. Also, I find that if I make candles that are that have got particularly clear wax, then if I leave my wax in the warming cabinet at about 70 degrees and leave it there for a day even, all the impurities in the wax fall to the bottom, and then you can just pour off the top 2/3 of that wax, and you will get a lovely clean wax, which is perfect for making candles. Also, I find that if I'm going to be making lip balms or skin creams, polish, and I need, say, 6 ounces of wax, it's much easier to be able to estimate how much wax you're going to need if you pour it into these 1 ounce molds, and then obviously you come up with your 1 ounce blocks of wax. So that's how I tend to store my wax if I'm using it for making products of the hive. store it in your 1 ounce blocks, and then you can just take what you need, and it's much easier than having to cut wax off of big heavy blocks. When you're going to take your wax to a competition, for example, take a soft cloth, so that before you're going to stage your exhibit, you can just give it a final polish and get it looking shiny, and make sure that there are no fingerprints on there. I also would like to talk about processing honey for the show table. And once again, this is simply what I do, and I'm sure that lots of people have lots of different ideas, but I can only share with you what I do myself. So when it comes to taking your honey off, of course you will extract it in the usual way. You can buy these filters, a set of 3, and there is a 200 micron, a 400 micron, and a 600 micron. The 200 micron, which is the smallest mesh, will take most things. When I say most things, I'm talking about pollen. And I think that when you're producing honey for the general public, a lot of people buy it because they want the pollen in there. So I tend not to use my 200 micron filter, simply because I do want a certain amount of pollen to go into my honey. My default one is the 400 micron. I think 600 micron is okay, but if you want it for the show table, you want to have a certain sort of clarity of your honey. And I've got a jar here. I don't know. See that? But if you use a 400 micron filter, it just means that you end up with honey that is nice and bright. Also, these filters sit very nicely in a 30-pound bucket. So when you're running your honey off, you can just pop this filter into the bucket and then just fill it up, and it's a very easy way of doing it. I've had filters before now that don't sit very readily into a bucket, so you want something that is convenient. When you are filling your jars, make sure that there is no gap between the lid and the honey, so you shouldn't be able to see daylight at all through there. One of the things that I should mention is, and it seems so obvious, read the schedule. Everything you need to know is in the schedule. And very often, filters, you can get filters from Thorns, by the way. I run the Bees and Honey tent at Devon County Show, and every year I get people phoning me and emailing me with questions about staging their exhibits. And all you need to do is read the schedule. If you stick to it, then you can't help but be quite successful, I would say. You must make sure that your jars don't have any defects, and that they should be a pair. Your lid should be matching. Obviously, your exhibit should be up to weight, and that also is the same when it comes to bars of wax. If it says 28 to 32 and 28 to 32 grams, then that's what your bar should weigh. So what I do is these molds are for 5 bars, and we have one of our competitions that asks for 6. which is a bit tricky. But then what you must make sure you do is that you use the same source of wax for all 6. There is no way that you can get matching bars of wax if you don't use the same source. So put all your wax into the jug at the same time, and then when one lot has set, then you can quickly take them out and put the next lot in, and it doesn't take a long time for 1 ounce jar bars to set. Also, with your wax cakes, when you are exhibiting them, there will be some sort of tolerance on what the weight will be. So it will probably say a minimum of, say, 454 grams, which is a pound, and it will probably be a tolerance of, say, 450 to 470. And make sure that when you exhibit your cake of wax, that it falls into that tolerance of the weight. I don't think there is an awful lot more that I can say about honey and wax and the show table. I'm sure you have questions. One of the things that I would say that I've enjoyed doing this year, wax pots, and we had a class for wax pots at Devon County Show, and this is one with a little screw lid on it. That is, it's delightful. There's a lady at Spring Conference who was doing a workshop on making them, and you can just buy on the internet a little mold like this, and you pour the wax into the sides there, and then there's a mold for the lid, and it works beautifully. So I can recommend making wax pots. If you want to sell things, such as if you're going to make skin creams and lip balms, of course, you need to get a cosmetic assessment. Sarah Robb, who is always at Spring Conference, if you speak to her, she will sort you out with recipes and with cosmetic assessments for your things that you want to sell. The reason I got into showing was because I was selling lip balms and skin creams, and I wanted to demonstrate that my wax was good quality. And I think there's no better way to demonstrate that than by winning prizes. So if you can say, well, I've got first prize for my wax at Devon County Show, or whatever county you're in, then at least it demonstrates that your wax is good quality and that customers can be confident in the quality of your product. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let me say, who's asking? Is it James?
It's James from Northampton.
Northampton. Jolly good, James. Off you go, Liz. What's your question, James?
My question is, you showed us your frames, your super frames, and those plastic caps. Where do you source those from?
Oh, I was going to ask the same thing, James. That thing that holds the super looks wonderful.
Yeah, I bought it from Man Lake, which is now the Bee Equipment UK, and it is called a cone capper for uncapping frames, and it's a frame rest. And when I bought it, which was several years ago, it was £32, but I use it all the time. It's really good, because before I had the big tray that I was uncapping in, and it took up so much room. But now I can just have a bucket with my uncapper, and all the cappings fall into the bucket with my net sack, and it's perfect. In fact, I say a net sack, it's just a meter of net that I line the bucket with, and then I scrunch it all up and tie it round and let it drip. But I mean, it would be more efficient to get the net and make it into a sack, so that you just put it into the bucket.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I would really like one of those. I was impressed too, James. The other thing that impressed me was your filters. I don't suppose, Liz, you could hold that filter up again so we can see it, because mine don't fit anywhere near as well.
These filters.
Yeah, those are really nice, aren't they? They really do work with a £30 bucket.
Yeah.
See, I've got ones with the 3 little lugs on.
Yes, that's what I had before, but this is so much better.
Oh, those are worth a look.
I used to have sticks that would sort of hold the 3 lugs in place, and it's just
Dreadful.
yeah, it's awful. But I'm sure I got those from Thorns.
Okay, I'll have a go. Can I ask you one other thing?
Yeah.
You held up a lovely jar of show honey with a super shine on it.
Yes.
So do you heat treat after you've bottled to get that shine?
No. The thing is, you know, the judges shine a torch through to see if there's any incipient granulation. Well, if I suspect that there is any incipient granulation, then what I will do is loosen the lid and warm it. Yes.
Okay. I must admit I heat treat if I've got a honey that I'm worried will granulate, to give it extra shelf life at 62, I think 62 degrees for 45 minutes, between 45 minutes and an hour in a bath of water, you know. And I just wondered if that helps with the clarity as well as the shelf life thing.
I don't think that is long enough to get that clarity, because I have this a wonderful warming cabinet that I can precisely put, say, you know, 55 degrees on it, and I will put it in and I will leave it in for the afternoon, because I think it takes more than 45 minutes for that incipient granulation to dissolve away.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I think it takes a little bit longer. I mean, this honey was done for May, I suppose, was when I put it into Devon County Show.
Oh gosh, and it's still beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Who else has a question? Because I've got several, but I don't want to hog it. Di, would you like to ask your question?
I would, yes, please. Thanks, Liz. That was great. Is the paler the better with wax, the rule?
Well, not necessarily. The thing is, I think judges are looking for the colour of buttercups. You can get very, very pale wax, but then I wouldn't like to suggest that people cheat at all, but you can buy wax on the internet that is bleached, and if you mix that with your yellow wax, you're going to get a paler colour. I think probably what the judges are looking for when they're judging wax is, first of all, the aroma. So, you know, if you smell wax, you can smell that aroma. And it was very interesting, actually, because when we were making our pots at Spring Conference this year, the lady who was running the course, who I'm not sure if she's a beekeeper or not, but she said...
Was it Angie?
Yes.
Angie Kirk. Yes, she's a beekeeper.
Oh, they're lovely pots.
Yeah, they are. They're lovely. But maybe it wasn't Angie Kirk then. It was someone at conference who said they had bought wax off the internet, and they showed us the packet, and it said 100% beeswax. And if you take the lid off of this and put your nose in it, you can smell honey and wax. And we smelt her wax, and it smelt of nothing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't just me. There were other beekeepers there who doubted that was 100% beeswax, because it just did not have any aroma. Just no aroma at all. So when judges are judging your wax at a competition, They are looking for aroma. They are looking for clarity, and they will shine a light through and see the clarity. Now, one thing that I omitted to say about processing your wax, when you take your cappings out of the water and they're, you let them drip, and then you open up your bag, then what you need to do is to pick out the darker pieces of wax and pick out any propolis that is in there, because propolis will make your wax go opaque, and you want it to be sort of luminescent. So go through your wax. You can be very pernickety and just pick out all the very, very light wax, but personally I can't be bothered to do that. But I will pick out any dark pieces that are there and any propolis that is there. So they will be looking for this luminescence with your wax, but they will also be looking at the quality of your molding, so that if you have got air bubbles that you can get sometimes underneath, if when you pour your wax in, if you pour it in with gusto and there's a bit of air gets trapped underneath, you're going to get air bubbles underneath. And when you're taking it out of the mold, you have to be really careful that you don't get little splinters coming off at the edges. Also, if you've got pets, just make sure you haven't got any pet hairs in there. I've done that before when I've had a cat. I've had a beautiful candle, and then I've looked and there's one tiny little hair stuck on the side, and that's it, finished. It's just no good.
Right, I've just looked it up. I think it was Anne Moore who did the luminaires at Spring Convention this year.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think these little wax pots are delightful. It's a wonderful idea. In fact, I made a couple, and my granddaughters came and said, "Oh, Grandma, can we have those, please?" So I've lost some, but they are lovely.
I was very interested in what you said about the filtering through lint, because I read that too, and I did try to get all that lint. But in the end, one of the things I've found is absolutely brilliant substitute is bamboo nappy liners.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
They come on a roll.
All right.
And they're dead cheap, whereas the lint costs a fortune. I wonder, could you advise us? When you do a block for show.
Yeah.
And you said it has to be exactly the weight, so I guess you could fill it on the scales, couldn't you?
Yeah. Or what you can do is you can take your 1 ounce blocks and weigh them before you even melt them.
Oh, right. Okay.
And if this is 450 grams when you put it in cold, then it's going to be 450 grams when it comes out. But do give yourself 5 or 10 grams over, because just to be on the safe side. The tolerance, I'm sure, will accept 10 grams over, but it won't accept 10 grams under.
Now, sometimes when I've poured the wax into the mold for the show, I use an IKEA bowl, let's be honest. I found that as it sets, it cracks. Do you have any tips for avoiding, or it sinks in the middle?
Yeah, what you need to do is it needs to cool really, really slowly. So put it in the oven at, say, 70 degrees and leave it in there for an hour. Then turn the oven off, don't open the door, and leave it in there overnight to cool really slowly.
Okay.
And you'll get a much more even surface on your cake of wax. The slower you can cool it down, the more even it will be.
Thank you. Yes, because I had a great big crack in my last one.
Yeah, it can do. Yeah.
Usually it just sort of sinks in the middle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Has anybody else, I'm sorry, I'm hogging the questions. Has anybody else got a question they'd like to ask?
there's a couple in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm not being a very good monitor. How do you prevent air bubbles when you pour into the wax mold? Because you mentioned that air bubbles at the bottom can be a problem as well.
Well, you need to pour really slowly and carefully. It's when you pour sort of, when you pour quickly, it traps the air in. So you know when people are pouring a pint of beer and they sort of let the beer go down the side of the glass to so that there isn't a lot of froth on the top. So when you're pouring your wax in, if you can pour it sort of very slowly and carefully so that it doesn't take air down in with it, then that's your best chance.
Oh, the other thing is, I sorry about this. Somebody said, could you please show that uncapping tool again? Because they only got a quick look. I think they mean the one that fits over the bucket. I think that's aroused rather a lot of interest. There'll be a bit of a run on those. That is handy.
Can I just add, you can buy those from Amazon for £6.90. Not Amazon.
Really?
Somebody, Claire McGetting, has put it on the chat list.
And what are they called?
Hold on.
She's put the link in the
She's put the
chat.
link in, yeah.
Oh, good old Claire. There we go.
It's an uncapping ledge compatible with a only with a 20-litre bucket. £6.90.
Where's that
Lovely.
from?
Thorns.
Oh, really? Golly.
Yeah.
Well, I must say that I know I paid a lot more. I paid £32 for mine, but it is superbly made and it's really robust.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean. Yes. Now, you see, that's the 20-litre bucket that one's compatible with is the settling tank that I use.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's handy if it's if you've already got a bucket that it will fit. And I also use an uncapping fork, not a knife, because
that's interesting.
I find that you can just flick up the cover of the cells, the wax cappings, with a minimum loss of honey with a capping fork. Whereas when I use a knife and I slice up through, I take a lot of that honey with me.
Well,
But
I have tried everything for uncapping and I don't know what's best. My bread knife actually works best, to be honest.
All right. I mean, obviously, everyone uses what works best for them. But
yeah.
I bought this uncapping fork 20 years ago when I first started beekeeping. And although I've had other ones that have been quite expensive, nothing has worked as well as this one. And it was just a cheap one that I bought at Spring Conference at Stoneleigh.
If you hold it up so it's on end to the camera, we can all see it's got a slight angle on the top. So turn it 90 degrees. And it's that makes the difference. If you've just got a flat one, they're awful. With one of those, it's much more pleasurable to uncap.
Yeah, it works a treat.
All right, thank you. Somebody's put into the chat about recycled glass is slightly green. I must admit that's something I found out the hard way by buying 6 boxes of jars, recycled jars, and wondering why all my light honey looked like a horse's urine sample. Yeah, so I wish I'd watched this first so that I knew that. Do you put the weighed wax into a Pyrex jug and into your warming cabinet ready to pour into your molds?
You can do.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do.
What else have we got? Has anybody else got any more questions? Because
what do you wipe the outside of your honey jar to remove fingerprints with before exhibiting? Well, a soft cloth. I mean, if you've got a nice soft cloth and then and the same with your bottles of mead as well. Your bottles of mead always need a lovely polish before they are staged, because when they are standing up on the shelf, if they've got the light behind them, they'll show up any fingerprints.
Do you do this thing with the cling film when you stage the honey jar, where you put a bit of cling film on the top to pull off anything that might be on the top, or do you think that would disturb it too much?
No, I don't do that.
Oh, okay.
What I do is, before I leave home, I look very carefully at the top of my honey, and I make sure that there is no foam, no bubbles, no, nothing on the top, that it is just clear. You do have to be careful with opening jars of honey at competitions, especially if it's somewhere in a marquee, such as Devon County Show, where it could be quite dusty. And if you take the lid off your honey, you risk getting a little bit of dust in there. No, I don't use cling film.
Okay, thank you. Right. I think that's all our questions. Thank you very much for that. It's lovely to actually see the things. So we really appreciate you doing it live for us.
Well, that's okay. You're very welcome. And that's what I thought. One of my best purchases, I have to say, and I don't know if you can get them anymore, these are called Verso tiles.
Yes.
And they're so light. Before I used to use aluminium roof covers, which are much heavier. These fit perfectly. They're so light and they're so clean. They're easy to clean. They keep the bees out. They're perfect for when you're moving supers along. So I can really recommend those. I'm not sure if you can still buy them, but if you can, I really recommend getting them. And if you're going to use them, you probably need 6.
Yes, I bought a couple of those versatiles, and I wish I'd bought more.
Yeah, 6.
Oh, and Ruth Richardson here is saying they're the best things she's bought as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got 2 in the car and you're coming backwards and forwards, and you've got a couple covering hives, because once you've taken one super off, you can just cover the top of the hive with another versatile while you're carrying up and down. So they really are useful.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I've got Corex boards that have been turned into roofs and taped together, and they're really light, so they're really useful for popping on the top of supers.
IKEA parklers. IKEA make an underbed storage plastic thing that's exactly the size of a national super, and I zip each super into one of those, and they go in the washing machine.
Oh, right, that's good.
But the versatiles were easier.
Yeah, well, they were brilliant.
I only bought 2, a big mistake.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
it's a shame they don't make them anymore.
It is. They're so good. Thank you very much. And I hope that will inspire people. This is a brilliant time of year, Liz. So thank you very much. This is all the honey shows are now coming up, and I'm hoping that there'll be some people letting us know that they've won something as a result.
Oh, well, yes. I mean, and also, when I give talks to the local branches about processing wax and honey for the show table, what I find so disappointing is that people will take their honey off, they'll put their cappings in a bucket, put them at the back of the shed, and forget about them. And in fact, wax is just as valuable as the honey is. And it's such a shame not to use the wax for all the lovely things that you can make.
Yep. And of course, at the Spring Convention, there are some wonderful workshops about, you see, you've obviously done, I have never done things like making lip salves and, but the workshops at the Spring Convention, I'm thinking that this year I might give it a go.
Well, if you're going to do any of Sarah Robb's classes, you need to log on the minute that the tickets are released, because they sell out like immediately.
Ah, right. I shall do that then. Thank you.
That's okay. Nice to talk to you all.
Thank you.